Welcome to this workshop on the Commonwealth Scholarships for Master's Studies, which forms part of the Sri Lanka Graduate Mentorship Program for 2024-2025. This is what the outline for today's session looks like. I will very, very briefly introduce the wonderful panelist for today who will be taking you through the various Commonwealth scholarships available for master's studies in the United Kingdom specifically. In particular, you will hear from our panelists about the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship in brief, but in more detail, she will be addressing the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships and the application process relevant for that. In addition to taking you through what the developmental themes the Commonwealth Scholarship sort of prioritizes and what kinds of essays you might find yourselves writing if you are looking to apply for these scholarships. She's also going to give you a sense of her own personal experience navigating this application process because with every jurisdiction and every year, it tends to be pretty tricky and confusing. So I'm sure it's very useful to hear from someone who has been through that, been through all the hoops for making the application for the scholarship before you set out on that path yourself. And at the end of the session, of course, we will take any questions that you have. If you are comfortable appearing in the recording, then please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask whatever questions you have. But if you prefer, you can also drop your questions in the chat and I'll be happy to read them out. All of that being said, here is the wonderful panelist for today. So we are joined by Sindhu Ratnarajan, who did the LLM at the University College London as a Commonwealth, as a Chevening Scholar, actually. But she was also on the reserve list for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship and therefore is very happy to take you through the process for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships and more generally these scholarships for master's studies. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Sindhu now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much thank you to EduAccess for inviting me and thank you all of you for joining. So my name is Sindhu. I'm a lawyer. I was a Chevening Scholar and I just finished my law program at UCL and I came back to Sri Lanka about 2 weeks ago. I was a reserve candidate for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship but this was at the University of Bristol. And it was for the Law and Globalization program. So I'm going to just be guiding you through the application process and just giving you a basic introduction on how this works. So there are two types, I would say, of Commonwealth scholarships. I mean, that is for masters. You have the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, and then you also have the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, which is for selected courses. Whereas I believe that in the master's scholarship, you have a bigger range of programs that you can apply for. So again, applying for it is a bit of a process, and I only applied to the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship because I was not eligible for the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship. For the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, at least at the time I applied, the requirement was that you be attached to a state institution. So I know that like people who teach at state universities, or I think even if you're at the Attorney General's department, things like that, or just in general working for any state institution, you can apply. I'm not sure if that is still the process, but what happens is the state, I think the Ministry of Higher Education is a nominating agency. So because of that, they sort of decide the criteria. So therefore, I think they, at least at the time I applied again, like the requirement was that you be attached to the state. For Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, that requirement was not there. So let me just give you just a brief introduction of basic idea of the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship. So in the next slide, yes. So this is a fully funded one-year master's scholarship, and it supports talented and motivated candidates who cannot support their education in the UK. To apply for this, you should be a citizen of a Commonwealth country or have been granted refugee status. And you should have a 2-1, that is a second upper, or a 2-2 second lower with a relevant postgraduate qualification. That is, you should have a master's degree if you have a second lower. So this criteria is very similar, and I believe it's the same for Commonwealth Shared Scholarships as well. And I think there's a distinction, I would say, between Shielding scholarships and say Commonwealth scholarships, because one distinction is that Commonwealth scholarships focus a lot more on your academic performance. And when it comes to Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, it is also the university, that selects you. So if you are stronger in terms of your academics, I would really advise you to apply for Commonwealth scholarships, either the shared scholarship or master's scholarship. And they look for things like prizes that you've got, or even in terms of publications, which scholarships such as Shielding don't really require. So that is something I've noticed. And if you go to the next slide, you'll find that the deadline for Commonwealth Master's Scholarships is, I believe, the 15th of October. And there are some sites, relevant sites. But I would suggest that you keep checking the Ministry of Education page. Generally, like when it's closer to the deadline, they sort of start circulating like more relevant information about it. Because I think I clicked on it and then it links you back to the Commonwealth Master Scholarship page, which again, like there is no actual place where you can go and apply as yet. I feel like the portal hasn't opened yet. So you have to just keep checking again and again. So moving on now to something I know more about, the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships. So these are the same requirements which I discussed before. In terms of the deadline, we can move on to the next slide. The deadline has not yet been given. So they have said that it'll probably be mid-December. So I think for me, when I applied in 2022, it was around the 15th of December. They open early November and close mid-December. Again, like just keep checking their website again and again. The courses for 2025, 2026 are not open yet. So right now, I think what is happening is that it's open for universities to bid for the programs that they want to offer as a shared scholarship, which I think ends in November. So I think we would know maybe next month or so about the list of courses. The other thing is that you can always have a look at the 2024 courses, because for me also, it was quite similar to the courses of the previous year. But that would give you an idea now itself to see if the type of programs that you like are being offered as a Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. In terms of documents, so I gave my passport. I had to give my transcripts and degree certificate. And I had to give 3 references. And one has to be from your present employee if you are employed. Of course, I didn't have to give the references at the point of applying. I just had to name them. And if you get selected, so after I was selected as a reserve candidate, I had to submit my the reference letters. So in terms of the allowances, so you get a stipend, which is a slightly higher rate if you are in a university in London, which is so you'll get every month, you'll get a stipend for your living expenses. You get a warm clothing allowance. Your airfare to and from the UK is paid for. Visa application costs. You also have to do a mandatory TB test, which they give a contribution to. And if you have children and you are widowed, divorced, or single parent, then there is a certain allowance. And also if you are with disabilities, then if you prove or if you give, I think you have to give some details about it, and then they will give you a contribution towards it. So I would say that the allowances are quite generous, especially like more so, I mean, I am comparing it with shaping as well. It is very similar to shaping, but there are additional allowances such as the warm clothing allowance, then even thesis grants and study travel costs, and also like contributions towards your dependents and things like that. So moving on. So the scholarships are based on 6 themes. So I'm not sure if that slide is there. Okay, it's actually, if you can go to slide 17, please. Slide
Sorry, I
17,
can't
which
see the slide numbers on my end, Sindhu. Do you mind telling
okay.
me what's
Just keep going to the developmental themes slide.
perfect. Got it.
Okay.
There you
Yeah,
go.
the one before. Okay. So the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships is given under 6 developmental themes. So they are science and technology, strengthening health systems, promoting global prosperity, peace, security and governance, strengthening resilience and response to crisis, access, inclusion, and opportunity. And on the next slide, I mean, that's a more pictorial depiction of it. So the courses that you apply for are categorized or are classed into these different themes. So, for instance, under strengthening health systems and capacity, you have certain MSCs in relation to health policies. Under access, inclusion, and opportunity, you have certain like law programs in relation to human rights, etc. So the program that you want to do would be affiliated with a theme. So if you're doing an LLM, the likelihood is that it would either be under access, inclusion, and opportunity, or there's one on strengthening global peace. So it's less likely to be, for instance, under strengthening health systems and capacity or science and technology. So the themes are really important because this is using the theme that you build your story for your essay and your narrative. And if there is something that you want to do, or program that you want to do, which does not come under these themes at all, then you know that this scholarship might not be the best for you. And scholarships such as, say, maybe the Commonwealth Master Scholarships or even Chevening, which are much more open, will be more relevant for you because it's not directly about a specific theme. Moving on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, in terms of the selection criteria, your academic merit matters quite a bit. The quality of your research proposal and the potential impact on the development of your home country, or the development of Sri Lanka, basically. So something else I want to highlight is that Commonwealth scholarships don't really ask you for work experience. This is different to Chevening, which requires that you have 2 years of experience. But even though they don't ask you for experience, I've heard from like past students that Commonwealth scholarships also encourage you to speak of your work experiences rather than perhaps what you did maybe in school. But still, like, you don't have to show that you have studied for like, or you have X hours of work experience, which you would have to do for either Chevening or Fulbright. It also focuses a lot on development. So you have to make very strong arguments on how your research and your work would contribute to the development of Sri Lanka. And that's something you have to keep in mind about your story. And when you describe the impact of your work. So on the next slide, you sort of have a grading system for applications. This is something, I mean, I'd advise you to just, if you're applying, like once you write your essay, just cross-check your essay with these indicators to see if you have like met the criteria. So on the next slide, we can see the requisites or like what you have to do, or if you accept this scholarship, what is required of you. So you are expected to return to your home country within 1 month of the end of your course or the end of your scholarship tenure, whichever is earlier. This is different to Shivning, where you can stay on until your visa expires. So UK visas, for instance, if your program is less than a year, you can stay for 2 months more from the end of your course date. If it's more than a year, you get 4 months extra to stay on. It also says that you can't like stay on to sort of like complete your graduation and things like that, like to attend your graduation ceremonies. So the thing is, my program was a 10-month program, and I was able to stay. My graduation was like 2 months after, like 1.5 months after. So I stayed on for my graduation before I came back to Sri Lanka. This is something I realized that I wouldn't have been able to do if I had a Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. On the other hand, Commonwealth Shared Scholarships allow you to stay on in the UK if you have a PhD offer with full funding. This is something that Shivning doesn't let you do, like for any form of higher studies. I think both Shivning and Commonwealth scholarships do not encourage applying for the graduate visa. And there is also, so I'm actually not sure of what the process is for Commonwealth. I didn't come across it this time, but when I was applying, I saw that you have to, the expectation is that you go back to your home country and stay there for a year. Whereas in Shivning, the expectation is that you remain in your home country for 2 years. The other thing is that Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, they say that scholars must not undertake paid employment during the award without approval from the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. I didn't have this restriction for Shivning. So that's something that you have to keep in mind if, for instance, you feel that your stipend might be insufficient for you. Next, we have discussed the developmental themes. So now I can just go through the overview of the essays. So there are I'm sorry about the numbering. There are pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 categories of essays, or 4 rather, that you have to write about. Firstly, it's the developmental impact statement. So I personally found applying for this, I found the application process much longer because there were a lot of questions and a lot of subsections as well. This was different to say Shivning, which had 4 questions, or like basically 4 essays, or Fulbright, which just has 2 statements. So that's something you need to keep in mind, because you need to be able to allocate enough time to write all the questions well, and make sure that you don't repeat the same incident or same example in each question. So in terms of the developmental impact statement, that is in 4 parts. So it's in the next slide. So firstly, you talk about developmental issues at the global, national, and local level. And then you also speak about your chosen theme and the wider sector. So when you apply, they ask you to select 3 sustainable development goals that most align with your future developmental impact. So again, like I said, development, like it's all about development basically. So like be very thorough on what development means and about SDG goals, and like how you achieve those sustainable development goals, because throwing those in really helps to strengthen your essay. And also keep tabs on the word count, because some essays are 125 words, some are 200 words, some are 250. So there are different subsections which expect different answers of different lengths. So you have to really be able to thoughtfully plan out your essay. In terms of part 3, you have to talk about the outcome you aim to achieve. a time frame, and who the beneficiaries will be. And also you have to show how the impact of your work could be best measured. So you have to be sort of able to quantify the work that you do and show how there was impact at ground level. The other thing is, I would say, is be very specific about what you're writing. So some of the feedback that I got from my draft essays was that I wasn't answering the question and was just being very vague. So be real. And the thing is, if you're not very clear on your narrative or haven't thought out your story very well, it's easy to be rather vague. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about it. Next, the study outline. So firstly, you give a study, it's in the next slide. So you give a study outline of 125 words. Then you give a detailed plan for 300 words. In terms of the study outline, you actually have to spell out your research proposal. So I got a bit stuck in there because I hadn't really drafted or like given a research proposal as such or thought through my dissertation in depth to be able to write it for this application. You also give a description of your methodology about your research and what you want to research on. And then in your detailed plan, you define the university that you have chosen, the course, and why you want to undertake that. And also more specifically, why your dissertation topic is, why the university that you have chosen is good for the dissertation topic that you plan to do. Next, moving on to your career goals. This is where you talk about the objectives during the award. Again, being very specific helps, and structure is also helpful. So for instance, you can just say, I have 3 objectives that I hope to achieve during this award, and be very precise on what you're planning to write on. Talk about your career plans for the next 5 years and long-term career plans, which is basically after the 5 years. And you also have to show how your area of study will help you to achieve these objectives. So keep that in mind when you're drafting your essays. Next, after having spoken so much about development, about your career goals, about your study outline, you now have to also give a personal statement of 500 words and speak about your volunteer experience in another 500 words. This is in the next slide. So it can be very confusing because like you sort of end up running out of things to say sometimes, and you have to really be mindful of not repeating things. In terms of the personal statement, I would really advise you to write something more personal per se, like something to do with perhaps your background or any obstacles that you faced or any challenges that you particularly faced and how you overcame that. And then volunteer leadership experience, you can just like give examples of instances where you took leadership, challenges that you faced, and how you overcame those challenges. So going on to the next slide. So in terms of my personal experience, so I would say, firstly, like the process is really unclear. Like you don't know exact dates of when it opens and closes. You have to just keep refreshing the page daily and searching for it. So the other issue that I realized was that there was difficulty in getting the right link. So for instance, sometimes it shows you the previous year's link, even when this year's link is open, and it says application closed. So you really have to be a bit astute in like recognizing and identifying the process. What helped me was that I followed relevant groups on Facebook, and I mean, I guess Twitter, but Twitter didn't really help. So maybe check Instagram as well. And I think I joined some groups on like Commonwealth applicants, Commonwealth Shared Scholarship applicants for 2024, 2025. Like you get a lot of groups like that because a lot of people from different countries apply. So it's really helpful when you join those because there are messages or people put up statuses, and also like you can randomly message people and ask them also whether like based on it gives you access to people who are also going through the same process basically. I would also recommend that you search about Commonwealth Shared Scholarships on Facebook itself, because you get like past posts that people have put up, which helps you. And in terms of knowing the programs and the universities that are bidding for it, sometimes the universities themselves, like on their websites, they upload or update it saying that they are offering Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, even if the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship that website has not said it openly yet. Another difficulty that I had was I didn't know what the questions were until it's like you have to fill up all the questions, like say fill up the first set of questions to know what the next set of questions are. So the portal itself is a little like messy. So I ended up, I think I just typed in a few words and I took screenshots so that I could go to the end of the application, and then like on a Word document, I typed up the questions and like I just wrote it, because I mean you need to put a lot of effort into answering it because there are a lot of questions. So you may not be able to, I mean you probably won't be able to just sit and like fill up the blanks and like fill in the answers to it. If you want to apply to multiple, so one thing is you can apply to multiple universities, but it's again a little different. So when it comes to Shivning, you say, these are my top 3 universities that I want to apply to. Even when it comes to things like Fulbright, you say these are the universities. But when it comes to this, you have to apply separately for each university. So you can basically just copy paste the same essay. Of course, certain questions, the answers for certain questions, the answers would be different, especially where you're explaining why you have chosen that particular university. But like apply for as many as you can if you have the time. I applied for the university first, and then I applied for the application. I applied for, I filled in I applied for it on the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship portal. But I heard that a person who applied, I think 2 years before me, said that I think that the university had to choose her and then she had to apply, that there was something a little different there. So again, like, I don't know how the process would be for you, but that's how it was for me. If it's a matter of where you have to have an offer before you apply or something like that, or like you should have, I think the requirement for me was that I should have applied, not that I should have had an offer. Then I would say just apply beforehand and then apply for the scholarship. The thing is, I think a lot of the UK universities, or at least some universities, don't require an application fee. So I would just advise you to apply for the university itself, like especially if there is no charge. Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about costs, and like the sort of like the opportunity cost of not getting the scholarship. So the other thing was, I mean, it was a bit tricky, which again was something I didn't realize or I didn't know at the time I was applying. So I applied for the Law and Globalization program at the University of Bristol. I was a second reserve. So I wrote to them and asked them like how many they are taking for this program. And they told me that they were only taking 1 person for that. So the thing is, when I was applying, I didn't know that I was competing for just 1 spot. So like, for instance, when it comes to Shivning, say they take 10 people. Whereas here, because it's very specific to the university and to the program, you might be competing for just 1 spot. So the thing is, like, I think they said that they take like around 5 people at the University of Bristol. So I was like, okay, 5 is a greater number. Some universities are taking only 3. So I was like, okay, let me apply for Bristol because my chances are higher. But I didn't realize that 5 meant that they were offering 5 different programs and that you get selected under that, like 1 person gets selected for that particular program. So that is something to think about when you're applying. And I would suggest again that you apply for more universities and more programs so that you increase your chances. Again, I don't know if that would how things would be for you, but that is something that you can think about. The other thing is, like, they say that you can ask any queries through the portal, but like whenever I ask them questions, like I didn't get any responses, so just be prepared for that as well. So yes, that is pretty much my experience, and that's pretty much what I have to say. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Sindhu. That was super comprehensive. Like I said earlier, if you have any questions, you can just use the raise hand function, and then I will call on you so you can ask your question. But if it's easier, you're also welcome to drop your question in the chat box and I can read it out. If any of you is considering to apply to the Commonwealth Scholarship, whether that's the Master Scholarship or the Shared Scholarship this year, and if you are keen on getting your essays reviewed by any of our mentors, there will be a process for the same. So we will be in touch with you very soon to let you know how you can get your application documents reviewed. But specifically for the scholarship. So the essays that Sindhu mentioned earlier, if you want to get them reviewed, we will, of course, keep you posted about what the review process for that will look like. But yes, for your university application documents, once you're connected to your mentors, you can request your mentors to review those documents for you. Do I?
There's a message that I got, a direct message. So,
Yeah.
I mean, asking whether there's a requirement to stay in Sri Lanka for a period of time after the shared scholarship is over. So they say that you have to come back to the UK in a month's time after the scholarship is over, or like after your education is over. So generally how people stay on is if they switch to the graduate visa. So you probably cannot get the graduate visa. However, if you get a PhD offer, which allows you to, which is fully funded, then they make an exception for that. And the time period, I'm not sure how long you have to stay, but I think it was 1 year. I remember like noting that for Commonwealth Shared was 1 year, and for Shielding it was 2 years. But I didn't come across it on the site like when I checked like today and yesterday. So I don't know exactly how that works. In terms of the date on which shared scholarships are open, so they haven't given an exact date yet, but they've said, I think, that it'll be open in November. Wait, let me just check the slides. Yes, they're scheduled to open early November and close mid-December. I would advise you to just keep checking the site because they are not very comprehensive or not very clear about the dates. Sorry, there was another message. No, they do not take asking whether they take 2 years to get back with the result. I'm sorry. I'm talking about my experience because I applied in 2022 for the 2023 intake. So no, they don't take 2 years. So I applied in December. I heard back from them in May. So that is roughly the period that it takes.
Sorry, Sindhu, I just wanted to ask you a question because we keep getting this question in previous sessions as well, which is about like who do you usually hear from? Does the CSC come back to you with the results, or do you directly hear from the participating university about whether you've been shortlisted for the interview, shortlisted for the scholarship or not?
Wait, let me just check my email.
think in past years, at least on the India side, we've always had issues about this because some people would hear very early by like January or February from the university that they apply to, but others wouldn't have heard and they would keep asking us, when will we hear? There was always a bit.
Was that for Commonwealth scholarships or
Yeah,
Commonwealth
for
Shared
the
Scholarships?
shared scholarship.
So I have got it from the, okay, I have got it from the University of Bristol. And I think that is correct because somewhere else also I saw, so it's a university that selects you or recommends you. And then Commonwealth Commission, they check to see if you're eligible. So again, like the person you have to please here is the university, not really Commonwealth Shared. Like the Commonwealth Commission, you just need to make sure that you fit in the eligibility criteria. There are a couple more like direct messages. Yeah, so there's a question on whether I parallelly applied for Shaving and Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So I decided that like 2022 was the year that I was going to apply for masters abroad. So one thing is like you really have to like make up your mind that like this is something you want to do because it is a bit of a process and you have a lot of essays to write. You have to ask people for references. You also have to spend quite a bit of money if you're applying to certain universities because they charge an application fee. So those are some things that you have to like think about and decide whether that's something you want to do. And also I had to do IELTS. Commonwealth Share doesn't require you to do IELTS, but they said that the universities may have a requirement. And I think most universities expect you to have done IELTS. So that is something you have to check based on the university that you apply for. So firstly, I applied for Shivning, I think in around October. Then I applied to the University of Bristol. Then I applied to a couple of universities in the US. And then I applied for Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. And then the next year, I think I applied for UCL only after I got the interview invite from Shivning. So UCL required me to pay 90 pounds. So I was like, I'm not going to apply for it if I don't have a scholarship because I was not going to go if I didn't have a scholarship. So after I got the invitation for the interview, then I applied for UCL. And I think, I mean, after that, after I did the interview for Shivning, I also applied for Fulbright for the following year because I had missed the deadline because I started applying in around October. So I think in May of 2023, I applied for Fulbright for 2024, but because I had got Shivning, I didn't go for the interview. So that is, I mean, I would advise you to apply for as many universities and as many scholarships in particular as you can, provided like that it doesn't cost you too much if it's a university that asks you to pay. Because I mean, you don't know what you'll get. I mean, you might get something which you didn't expect, or you might not get something. So I would say like just apply for everything and just see how things go. And yes, you are allowed to choose what to take up once the results are released. Like you can say that you are taking it or that you're not taking it. So don't worry about Also, Gayatri, to finish answering your question. So I was following the Facebook pages. So like they sort of like say, oh, like university of say like UCL has responded with the results for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. Then they say Bristol has responded. So you know like which university has responded. So you can also await your results based on that. Do you think the developmental themes include LLMs for corporate law, like energy laws, which are relevant for development, for example? That's a direct message that I've got. I think that is I mean, you need to check whether like like if you want to do a program on energy law, then you need to check whether a program like that is being offered in when the list of the universities and the courses are issued. And I mean, generally speaking, I think you can fit in most of your what you want to study into the themes that are offered. I think at least at my time, like Cambridge was offering just a general LLM. And there was, I think, another university also that was offering a general LLM. So you can, I think, if there are general programs also being offered, then you can sort of fit in the specific area of study that you want to, if it of course aligns with that theme. So just wait for the list to be issued and then you can take a call on that.
But I guess like with the Commonwealth Master Scholarship, if the applicant is able to make some sort of a link between the developmental themes and the, say, a master's in corporate law, do you think they might be able to apply? Because there's no set list as such, right, for the Commonwealth Master Scholarship?
Yeah, yes, of course. That I think that's where like Commonwealth Masters is a lot more broader and much less specific as opposed to say Commonwealth Shared Scholarships. But again, like I think if you're eligible for, it's about eligibility for Commonwealth scholarships.
I'm not sure if this was already covered, but did you go over the differences between the shared and the masters? I joined a bit late. I'm not sure if I missed that.
So I don't, so I only know the process for Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, but in my time for Commonwealth Master Scholarships, you needed to be working at a state body because the state is the nominating agency for you. So generally, like I think the university also has a part to play in selecting you, and so does the state. So because of that, and the state was only like nominating those working under the state institution. So because of that, I was not eligible. I don't know if that is still the process now. I think there was a PDF that was shared, and that doesn't specify that it's for state bodies only. But it also doesn't really have the relevant links where you can actually go and apply. So I think the process will become clearer maybe in a couple of weeks or a month or so. So then you'll know for sure. If you have studied your undergraduate degree in English, do they waive off the English language requirement, or do we still need to take IELTS? I still had to. They don't waive it. They waive it off if you are from certain countries. They usually don't waive it if you're from Sri Lanka. But I heard that universities such as York didn't require IELTS. But I would say it's very specific to the university, so check out that.
I think typically some universities also have a section on their website where they explain who can apply
Yeah.
for the waiver and who cannot. So it's always worth checking that website. And I think sometimes they expect you to, write them an email requesting for that waiver, etc. So if you want some sort of guidance with, how to write that email asking for a waiver, please don't hesitate to reach out to the team. We do have those waiver templates ready, so we can share those with you. Great. Any other final questions about the Commonwealth scholarships? Yes. Hello, this is regarding the offer letters. Usually, how long does it take for a university to send us an offer letter? Because as you mentioned, in some years, we needed the offer letters to upload before applying for the scholarship. So if we apply for universities as soon as the shared scholarship related universities are published, how long does it normally take? Any ideas, Sindhu?
I think it varies based on the universities. So for the University of Bristol, I got a very, very fast response. I actually got it like in 2 days or so. Okay, maybe not 2 days, maybe a week. I can't really remember, but they also have like when you sign into the portal, they tell you which stage the application is in. But when it comes to something like UCL, it takes a little longer. And also universities like Edinburgh, for instance, you have different time periods in which you can apply. So for instance, if you apply early, like say if you apply in October for next year, September, then they say that we'll give you an offer by December. So like they process it in different batches. I would say just apply. I mean, you can, if you apply for universities as soon as the shared scholarship related universities are published, I think that should be fine. And at least for me, I didn't need to have that offer letter to apply. I just needed to have it. I just needed to have, I think, applied when I was applying for Commonwealth Shared, because I needed to, I think, give that application number or something like that. I'm not sure if it was me. I don't know if I just applied early just to be on the safe side, but that is something you can see based on once the process is confirmed. But yes, like sometimes it takes, yeah, the other thing is, this is something I heard. So in the UK, universities are also less strict if you meet the academic requirements. So for instance, I heard that universities like Queen Mary, they take everyone who meets the minimum requirement. And the minimum requirement is a 2-1. So I heard that, and I think in my experience also, like universities like that, like even Bristol, like because I had 2-1, I think it was like they don't really not take you if you meet the academic requirements. Whereas like universities like UCL might be a little more stricter. Or if it's a university, like if it's Oxbridge that asks you for a first class and you don't have that requirement. So yeah, I think if you feel that you don't meet the requirements, then I would advise you to apply early so that you can have backup plans or apply to other universities if you don't get into your first choice.
The university website is usually a good place for you guys to figure out whether you need to have applied in advance or if you can make the application later. So for example, I'm just dropping a link in the chat. This was the website of the Institute for Development Studies at the University of Sussex. So if you take a look at the notification that they put here, they clearly say that, you know, if you want to be considered for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships offered by IDS, you should have made the application by the Commonwealth Scholarship deadline itself to the university as well. So you couldn't have made the application to the university after that. So it wasn't necessary that you received the offer by this deadline, but they expected you to make the application to the university also at the same time as the Commonwealth Scholarship application. So do check the university websites and maybe your program websites to see if they have indicated some sort of a deadline like that. Great. Any other questions? I don't see anything else in the chat. I don't know if you had received anything else, Sindhu, by DM? No? Okay, perfect. So maybe now is a good time to close the session then. And much like Dushani, I'm sure all the other mentees who are on this call also had quite a few of their doubts about the scholarship completely cleared. So thank you so much, Sindhu, for taking us through these scholarship application processes so comprehensively. And yeah, see you all again in one of our future workshops. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.